was 3 floors underground in the middle of a server migration that couldn't wait when my college roommate texted me that there was a moving truck parked in front of my condo. I stared at the message for a long moment. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed back, "What do you mean a moving truck?" She sent a photo without another word. The image was grainy, taken from across the street, but it was clear enough. There was a white truck, the kind with the orange stripe and the rental logo, backed up to the entrance of my building. And standing on the sidewalk, gesturing at the loading dock with the confident energy of someone who absolutely belonged there, was my mother. I had been in Seattle for 11 days. I was a data infrastructure consultant, the kind of job that sounds impressive and feels like drowning. Companies brought me in when their systems were failing, usually at the worst possible moment, and I would disappear into their server rooms for weeks at a time, living on vending machine coffee and hotel points. My condo back in Chicago had been sitting empty since I left, just like it always did. I owned it outright. Bought it 2 years ago at 31 with my own savings, my own credit, my own name on every single line of every single document. It was a 1-bedroom in Lincoln Park, nothing extravagant, but I had picked out every piece of furniture myself. The kitchen island was reclaimed elm. The bookshelves were custom. I had spent 4 months finding the right reading chair. The image of my mother standing on my sidewalk felt like a trap door opening beneath my feet. I typed back to my roommate, "Is she going in or coming out?" The response came fast, "Going in. She has a key." She had a key because 2 Thanksgivings ago she had watered my plants while I was in Denver for 6 weeks. I had never asked for it back. That had felt rude at the time. It felt like the most catastrophic oversight of my life right now. I walked out of the server room past my client's bewildered IT manager into the stairwell and called my mother. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called my father. Same. I called my brother Theo, not Theo from the name list, a different one, my actual brother. And that call didn't even ring. Just silence and then a busy signal, which no one gets anymore, which meant he had declined it. I called my roommate back instead. "How many people are with her?" I asked. 2 guys, movers. They've been carrying boxes for like 20 minutes. I almost didn't text you because I thought maybe you hired them. But then I saw your mom pointing at stuff through the window and it felt wrong. It felt wrong because it was wrong. "Can you do something for me?" I asked. "Can you go over there and tell her you saw the truck and you wanted to make sure everything was okay? Just stall her. Don't let them take the bookshelf. Please." "Which bookshelf?" "The one by the window. The tall one. Just go. I'll explain later." I hung up and stood in that stairwell for exactly 45 seconds with my back against the cinder block wall, staring at the fluorescent light above me, doing the thing I always do when I'm about to fall apart. I made a list. Not an emotional list. A practical one. What do I know? What do I need? What do I do first? What I knew, my mother had a key. Movers were inside my home. My father and brother were unreachable, which was not a coincidence. What I needed, information and then leverage. What I did first, I called my attorney. His name was Daniel. He was a real estate attorney I had worked with when I bought the condo. Methodical and quiet, and the kind of person who doesn't get surprised by much. He picked up on the second ring, which I had not expected, and I told him everything in under 90 seconds. "Is the property in your name alone?" he asked. "Yes. Solely. No co-signers, no share title, nothing. Any power of attorney documents, durable or otherwise?" I stopped breathing. 6 months ago, I had been preparing for a major contract in Frankfurt. 3 weeks abroad, and my father had asked me, very reasonably, very calmly, if I would sign the limited power of attorney so he could accept a certified mail delivery that was coming to my address while I was overseas. It had seemed so small. A package, maybe 2. I had signed the document at the kitchen table at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon while my mother made pot roast and my brother watched football in the other room, and I had not thought about it again. until now. There's a limited POA, I said, from last March, for receiving mail and managing minor correspondence while I was in Germany. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Did you revoke it when you got back? No, I had not, because it was for packages. Because it had seemed like a formality. Alice, it might still be valid, he said, and something in his tone told me to let him keep talking. But limited is the key word here. A POA for receiving correspondence does not authorize the sale of real property. If they've initiated any kind of transfer using that document, it's a very aggressive and very wrong interpretation of what it grants. What do I do? Do you have your copy of the POA with you? I thought. I traveled with a small accordion file. It held my passport, my insurance cards, my consulting contracts, and because I am the kind of person I am, because my father raised me to keep copies of everything and apparently taught my brother nothing, a small packet of property documents, including the original POA form. Yes, I said. What's the scope language? Read me the purpose clause. I was already moving, back up the stairs toward the elevator to my hotel floor. I had the file out before the door to my room had swung all the way open. I found the paper in under a minute. This power of attorney is granted for the sole purpose of accepting certified mail, signing for deliveries, and managing routine correspondence on behalf of the principal during her absence from the state of Illinois. I read, it does not grant authority to enter into contracts, transfer property, manage financial accounts, or act in any capacity beyond the stated purpose. Perfect, Daniel said, and I heard the sound of his chair. They can't use that to sell your condo. If they found a buyer and represented this document as granting them authority to close, that's fraud. Send me a photo of that page right now. I'm going to start drafting a cease and desist. I photographed the page and sent it. Then I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and called my mother again. This time she picked up. Sweetheart, she said, and her voice had that careful brightness, the kind she used when she had already decided how a conversation was going to go. I was going to call you tonight. How, Seattle? There's a moving truck at my condo, I said. A pause, not long, maybe 3 seconds. Oh, we were going to explain everything when. Mom. My voice was very flat. I had not known it could sound like that. Why is there a moving truck at my condo? She exhaled. The brightness dropped out of her voice like a stage light going off. Your brother is in a situation, a serious one. We've been trying to handle it quietly and we needed to move quickly. The market is good right now and we found a cash buyer who could close. You found a cash buyer, I repeated. The condo has been sitting empty for months, sweetheart. You're never there. You live out of hotels. And Theo needs the equity. He needs it now. We didn't want to stress you while you were on a job. You know how you get when work and personal life overlap. Stop. I stood up. Stop talking. You are in my home right now with movers attempting to sell my property without my knowledge or consent. That is not a conversation I'm having on the phone. Tell the movers to stop. Don't let another box go out that door. Alice, you're being dramatic. The closing is. The closing is void, I said. The POA you're using doesn't cover property transfer. I have the document in front of me. Daniel has a copy. If that truck leaves with my belongings, I'm filing a police report within the hour. She went quiet again, longer this time. Your brother is going to lose everything, she said softly. That's not my condo's problem, I said. Tell the movers to stop. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my head was very clear. That's a thing that happens to me in disasters, I've noticed. The clearer the emergency, the calmer I get. Panic is for ambiguous situations. When the situation is clear, I just move. I booked the next flight to Chicago, 6 hours. I packed in 8 minutes, checked out in 3, and was in an Uber to SeaTac before my mother called back. I didn't answer. I was already working. On my iPad, I pulled up everything I could find, my property tax records publicly accessible. My mortgage history, paid off in full. I'd done a lump sum payment 14 months ago, and I still felt a little proud about it every time I thought about it. The deed was in my name, recorded with Cook County. I searched the address on real estate listing aggregators, found it on two. Listed 4 days ago. Cash buyers preferred. Quick close. Selling as is. The listed price was $80,000 under what I'd paid, and I had improved the unit significantly since then. New flooring. New kitchen fixtures. A custom closet system I'd paid a carpenter to build. The listing agent was an LLC. I ran the name. I already had a feeling about what I was going to find. When the results came back, I sat with it for a moment. The registered agent was someone I had met exactly twice at family dinners. A man my brother called his business partner. The kind of business partner who sends late-night texts and never seems to have an actual business. My brother hadn't just gotten my parents to sell my home. He had the buyer lined up. This was coordinated. This had been planned before my flight to Seattle. I stared out the Uber window at the Seattle skyline and I thought about the last time I had sat at my parents' kitchen table. My mother had made pot roast. My father had asked about my career with a particular brand of mild condescension he reserved for things he didn't understand. My brother had been charming and easy and showed up 40 minutes late and everyone had smiled at him like the sun had just come out. I had eaten and driven home and thought, same as always. I had always been the daughter who handled things. Paid her own way through college, mended her own job, bought her own place. When things were hard, I went quiet and found solutions. When my parents needed help, I helped. When my brother needed bailing out, I watched my parents handle it, and I stayed in my lane because I did not want to be involved in whatever the current disaster was. I had stayed in my lane so consistently that they had apparently decided my lane was theirs to use. The flight from Seattle to O'Hare was 2 hours and 40 minutes. I spent the first hour reading the full text of Illinois real estate fraud statutes on my phone. I spent the second hour drafting, in a notes app, a precise chronological account of every event since my roommate's text, with timestamps. The last 40 minutes I sat with my eyes closed and thought about nothing, because I needed to be very present when I walked into whatever I was walking into. My roommate met me at O'Hare. She had done exactly what I'd asked. Gone over, chatted up my mother, kept the movers from taking anything after the bookshelf. The bookshelf had already gone, but the rest of the furniture was still there. Your mom was very nice to me, she said as we drove toward Lincoln Park. She offered me coffee. She's always very nice, I said. She also told me that you were probably going to be upset, but that you'd understand eventually because family has to stick together. I understand plenty, I said. My parents' car was still in the visitor spot when we pulled up. I had expected that. My brother's car was there too, a leased BMW that I had once watched my mother write a check to cover, casually, the way you'd pay a parking meter. I went up alone. The condo smelled wrong. It smelled like my father's aftershave and delivery food, a combination so incongruous with the space I had built that it made me genuinely nauseated for a moment in the doorway. My coffee table had been pushed to the wall. The movers had left gaps everywhere they'd taken things, and those gaps looked like missing teeth. My parents were in the kitchen. My brother was leaning against the counter near the window, arms crossed, wearing a jacket I had never seen before. My mother was at the island with a glass of white wine. My wine, from a bottle I had left in the fridge, and my father was standing in the center of the room in the way he always stood when he thought he was about to have to be the authority in a situation. Alice, my father said it like a greeting and a warning at the same time. We didn't expect you back this soon. There wasn't any reason to fly back. We could have talked about. You sold my condo, I said. We are in the process of liquidating an asset to address a family emergency. He said it was the cadence of someone who had rehearsed it. Your brother is facing a significant financial situation. We needed to act quickly. You have the means to replace this property. Theo does not have the means to address his current. What situation? I asked. I looked at my brother. What situation exactly? Theo looked at the floor. That was answer enough. Tell me, I said. My mother put her wine glass down. It's complicated, sweetheart. Some investments didn't. They weren't investments. my brother said suddenly. He said it quietly, almost to himself, like he was tired of the word. It was a loan. I took a loan from some people and I can't pay it back, and they're not. They're the kind of people who don't wait. How much? I asked. He didn't answer. Theo, how much? 90,000. My father moved slightly, a small defensive shift of weight. I'd seen that shift my whole life. It happened when the number finally had to be said out loud in front of someone who was going to react to it rationally. $90,000, I said. And your solution was to sell my condo? My paid-off condo appraised last year at $420,000? For what? What were you going to walk away with? Silence. Dad. The buyer made an offer of $150, he said. Cash, quick close. We took it to address the immediacy of the situation. The remaining $60 would have. You were going to pay a $90,000 debt with $150,000 of a $420,000 asset, I said slowly, and the other $270,000 of my equity just. We thought. You didn't think, I said. That's the problem. You panicked and you chose the fastest exit, and the cost was $300,000 of my money that I earned, and you didn't ask me. We knew you'd say no, my mother said. The room went very still. That was the truest thing she had said in this entire conversation. She knew I would have said no, not because I didn't love my brother, not because I couldn't imagine helping, but because being asked meant I had a choice. And apparently a choice for me was less convenient than simply proceeding without one. The closing is not happening, I said. Daniel has already prepared documentation of the POA's scope limitations. I spoke with him from Seattle. If the buyer's agent pushes the transfer through, they're closing on a fraudulent sale, and they know it. The title is dirty, and any competent title company is going to catch it. Alice, my father started. I'm not done. I set my bag down on the kitchen island, directly next to my mother's wine glass. I want you to hear me clearly. I am not lifting any hold on this transaction. The condo is staying in my name. Whatever Theo owes, that is not coming out of this property. Not now, not ever. Then what are we supposed to do? My mother asked. Her voice had shifted into something softer, the maternal frequency she deployed when she wanted me to feel responsible for fixing things. These people are not patient. They're not going to wait while we figure out another option. Your brother could get hurt. Why? I asked. Didn't you sell your house? The question landed like a dropped plate. My father blinked. My mother's expression shifted in a way I couldn't quite name. Not guilt, not exactly. More like the genuine surprise of someone who had never considered the possibility. We can't touch the house, my father said finally. That's our. Your what? I asked. Your security? Your nest egg? The asset you spent 30 years building? Neither of them answered. Right, I said. You can't touch yours, but you can touch mine. The cruelty of it didn't need my help to land. My father looked at the floor. My mother picked up her wine glass and put it down again without drinking. My brother was still by the window. He had stopped looking at the floor. He was looking at me, and his expression was not the expression of someone who was owed something. It was the expression of someone who knew, in this moment, exactly what they had done. I'm sorry, he said. Just that. No performance. No pleading. I looked at him for a long moment. The sorry didn't fix anything, but it was real, and I could tell the difference. You have a problem that needs solving, I said to all three of them. I'm not the solution. You need to figure out another one. You have. I glanced at my phone. Somewhere around 60 hours before the sale attempt officially dies, based on the timeline Daniel outlined. Use that time to call your bank. Look at your retirement accounts. Take out a second on your house if you have to. Talk to a real financial advisor. But this address is not available. We can't, my father started. You can, I said. You just don't want to. There's a difference. That one landed differently. I saw it in his face. He was a man who had spent 50-odd years believing that his discomfort with a decision was a legitimate reason not to make it. I had absorbed a version of that belief myself for a long time. I was done with it. "I need you to leave now," I said. "Take the mover's number, take whatever you brought, and go." "Alice, I'm not asking," I said. "I'm telling you. If you're not gone in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police and reporting an unauthorized entry," which is what this was, regardless of the key situation, because you used a key given for a specific limited purpose and you used it to facilitate a property sale. That's not a gray area. My mother started crying. Real tears, or close enough. With her, I had long since stopped being able to tell. My brother put his hand briefly on her shoulder and then walked toward the door. "I really am sorry," he said again as he passed me. "I know," I said. My father picked up his jacket from the back of a kitchen chair. He didn't say anything. He had the look of a man who was used to being the largest presence in a room and had just found the room suddenly reorganized around someone else. He walked out. My mother followed, still crying softly, her wineglass left on my island. I locked the door behind them. Then I sat on my kitchen floor, not dramatically, just because it was the closest flat surface, and I put my head back against the cabinet and I breathed. Not relief, not yet, more like the particular feeling of a held breath finally released, when you've been breathing shallowly for so long that a full breath feels almost painful. I texted Daniel, "They're gone. Talk tomorrow." He replied within minutes, "Good. Sleep. We have work to do." The next 72 hours were not quiet. I had expected that. My parents had a network, church friends, my aunt who lived in Naperville, 2 cousins who had always treated family loyalty as a competition sport. And by the following morning, my phone had 7 messages from numbers I recognized and 2 from numbers I didn't. "Your mother is devastated. Alice, I think you need to hear your parents out. Family is all we have, you know that. Sweetheart, Theo is scared. Whatever happened with the apartment, this is bigger." I read them all. I did not respond to any of them. I forwarded the chain to Daniel, who told me to keep doing exactly that. What I did instead, I called my aunt. Not the one from Naperville, my father's sister, a woman named Beverly who lived in Ohio and had, for as long as I could remember, been the one family member who did not have any particular investment in maintaining anyone else's illusions. She had sent me a card when I bought the condo. It said, "Proud of you. Do it the right way and you never have to undo it." I had thought about that card more than once in the last 48 hours. She picked up immediately. "I've been waiting for you to call," she said. "Your father already got to me last night. I'm assuming you'd like to tell me your version." "I'd like to tell you what actually happened," I said. I told her everything. The POA, the listing, the buyer. The $90,000, the offer of $150 for a 420 property. I told her about walking into my own condo and finding my family eating takeout inside it. I told her what my father had said about my brother needing the equity and what my mother had said about knowing I'd say no. Beverly was quiet for a moment after I finished. "Send me the listing," she said. I sent it. Another pause. $150 for that unit. Your father knows what that neighborhood is worth. He's been to your place. That's not a number someone makes in good faith. That's a number someone makes when they're frightened and not thinking." "I know," I said. "What do you need from me?" "I need someone who will tell the rest of them the truth," I said. "I can't keep defending myself to everyone individually. I'm exhausted. But if it comes from you—" "I'll handle it," Beverly said. "You focus on your property. I'll talk to your aunt in Naperville. And I'll call your father because someone needs to say to him directly that what he did was wrong and he needs to acknowledge it." I exhaled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is just what should have happened first." She paused. "The buyer. You said it was an LLC. Did you run the registration?" "Yes." "And—" I told her the name. She made a short, dry sound that was not quite a laugh. "Of course," she said. Your brother's been running with that crowd for 2 years. Your father knows who that man is. He chose to proceed anyway. Another pause. Alice, are you okay? The question caught me off guard. It was such a simple question. No one in my immediate family had asked it. I will be, I said. Good answer, Beverly said. The legal piece resolved faster than I expected. Daniel filed a formal notice with the title company within 24 hours of my return to Chicago. The buyers LLC withdrew the offer within 48 hours of that, not because they were scared of me personally, though the letter Daniel sent was precise and unambiguous, but because the title was unmarketable and any competent closing attorney would have flagged it. $90,000 debts, even to people who expect payment in uncomfortable ways, are not worth a federal fraud exposure. My brother figured out a payment plan. I don't know the details. I didn't want the details. My aunt in Naperville, after a long conversation with Beverly, apparently told my parents directly that what they had done was wrong in those words, and that she would not be taking their side in any ongoing family conflict. My father called me 3 weeks later. It was a short call. He apologized. It was not a perfect apology. It had some defensive edges, some qualifications, some implicit suggestions that I might have been more available to discuss the situation if I wasn't always working. But it was an apology, and I could hear that it cost him something to make it, so I accepted it without conditions and told him I needed time before I was ready to see them in person. My mother sent a card. No letter, just a card. It had flowers on it, and in her handwriting she had written, I know we hurt you. I'm sorry. I love you. That one I kept. The movers had taken the bookshelf. I found the same model online, the same manufacturer, refurbished. It arrived on a Thursday, and I spent the better part of an evening installing it, which I have always found meditative in the way of tasks that require precision and patience and offer immediate visible results. When it was done, I stood back and looked at it, and it was right. Not identical to the original, there was a small variation in the wood grain, but right. My roommate came over that weekend with wine, and we sat at my kitchen island, and she asked me if I was really okay, and I thought about it for a moment before I answered. I think I was operating under a system that wasn't working, I said. I kept being low maintenance because I thought that was what made me good. Good daughter, good sibling. Stay out of the way. Fix your own problems. Don't ask for too much. And I think they read that as available, like not needing much meant I had plenty to spare. She was quiet for a moment. And now they know the system changed, I said. She nodded, poured more wine. I looked around my condo, the bookshelf in the corner, the reclaimed elm island, the reading chair I had spent 4 months binding, the walls I had painted myself on a long weekend 2 years ago, a color called morning fog that was exactly right in the afternoon light. The place was mine, not because my name was on the deed, though it was, because I had built it choice and I had defended it, and it was still here. That was enough. That was actually more than enough. The thing I keep coming back to is the bookshelf, not because losing it was the worst part. It wasn't. But because of what my mother said when I asked where it went. We sold some of the bigger pieces to the new owner. You should be thanking us. She said it while standing in my kitchen, drinking my wine, completely at ease. And I realized that the problem was never that they didn't love me. The problem was that they had confused love with ownership. For a long time I had believed that being low maintenance was a virtue. I paid my own way. I asked for nothing. I fixed my own problems quietly, and I didn't make noise about it. I thought that was integrity. Doing right by yourself without burdening anyone else. And it is, up to a point. But somewhere along the way, my family had read my silence as permission. The less I asked for it, the more available I apparently seemed. My condo sat empty while I worked across the country. And to them, that emptiness looked like abundance. They were entitled to redistribute. What saved me wasn't luck. It was preparation I had done without knowing I'd need it. I had kept a copy of that power of attorney document not because I suspected anything. I didn't. But because I am the kind of person who keeps records, who reads the fine print, who knows exactly what she signed and what it did and did not authorize. When the moment came, I didn't have to scramble. I already had the answer. That's the thing about building real knowledge of your own situation. It doesn't feel like armor until the day you actually need it. Then it feels like the only thing standing between you and losing everything. And when I walked into that condo and found my family eating takeout inside it, I didn't fall apart. I asked the question nobody had asked. Why didn't you sell your own house? Not because I expected a good answer, because I needed them to hear the question out loud, to feel the weight of what they had actually decided, that my security was expendable and theirs was sacred. Sometimes the most important thing you can do in a confrontation is refuse to let the premise go unexamined. I think about my Aunt Beverly a lot. She didn't wait for me to explain myself to a room full of people who had already picked a side. She asked for my version. She listened, and then she said, "I'll handle it." That kind of integrity, the willingness to say the true thing even inside your own family, is rarer than it should be. It costs something. She did it anyway. The condo is mine. The bookshelf has been replaced. The walls still hold the color I chose. None of that came from being lucky or being protected. It came from knowing what I had, knowing what I'd signed, knowing who to call, and being willing to stand in the room and say the hard thing clearly without flinching. That's what I'd tell anyone in a version of that situation. Not to be harder or colder, or to trust less. Just to know your own ground. Document it. Understand it. And when someone tries to tell you that protecting it makes you selfish, that's the moment you stop apologizing and start talking to your attorney.